it's Julia. I thought I'd hop on and show my face. It's been a while since I've done that, and also it's been a while since I've uploaded a video. Thank you so much for your patience. I opened up my little summer shop this last weekend, and there's so much just cleaning and organizing and getting my stuff out there and setting up that I just didn't have time to upload. It was really fun to be out there to see some regular customers again. Things are definitely different. For those of you who don't know, I have a little summer shop that's part of the flea market. So it's open on the weekends from Memorial Weekend through Labor Day weekend. And the flea market did open on time on Memorial Weekend, even in the middle of the COVID thing. But I chose not to open right away and just wanted to social distance for a bit longer. But did get out there. I made some changes to my space. I'm going to link a video up on the iCard so you can, it's like a tour of my little building. And I'll also put that down below as well. But I have a little it used to be an old cabin. It's just a really small little building. Then I have a 10 by 20 canopy out in front of it. And this year I chose not to open up my building because it's a very small, closed-in area. And so I am just set up underneath my canopy, which is it's a 10 by 20, and it's open air. So I have the sides up, and I feel like there's enough of a breeze through there. I have a direct traffic line, so people come in one way and out the other. And also my husband put up a plexiglass, I think they're called sneeze guards, in front of my stand. So I feel safe. Most people wear masks when they come in, and which is, very much appreciated. And it's been really fun seeing some regular customers again. So I have a sewing question, and I want people to leave comments and help me out. I'm having trouble with metallic thread. If anybody has some hints on that, I would really appreciate it. I don't think I've ever had good luck with metallic thread, and I'm sure I'm probably using the wrong needle, or if anybody has success with using that, if you can just leave some comments down below, I'd really appreciate it. One of the things that I am struggling with is it just frays and breaks, and I can get a few stitches in and then that's it. So thanks in advance for any of your help on that. I did do a project a couple weeks ago that I filmed, and that's the one I'm going to share with you today. I did list this, I'm making a little pouch, and I did list it in my Etsy shop, and it has already sold, but I thought it turned out really fun, and it's using batik scraps. I made some sunglass cases a few weeks ago and out of batik fabrics, and I had a lot of just ends left, and they're just so beautiful, and I didn't want to, I wanted to put them into another project. And so that's the project we're going to work on. I hope you enjoy this. Let's get started. You can see my pile of batik scraps here, and I'm just laying these randomly on my front and my back piece of my clutch. Now this piece measures 8 inches by 15 inches, and I have both the front and the back. And laying these out somewhat at the same time, just trying to get all the colors, or a variety of colors on each, the front and the back. Most of these are going on horizontally, but I believe I do switch that up here in a little bit and do lay some of my strips going vertically. I have a bunch of phrases and words. Whenever I have a chance, I will look for fabric with words on. And I'll link this down below for you, the collection. But this is, I think it was a 2012 piece, and I do not think it's still available. Again, I do, I collect it and then I just keep it in my stash. I do like adding words to my projects. And so I'm picking out 2 different phrases, one for the back and one for the front. This first one is paint your sky any color but blue. And then I believe this one is practice twirling in circles. Just whimsical sayings. Just doing some trimming on them and getting them even. I cut all these phrases out of my yardage and then just keep them in a Ziploc bag. They're more convenient to pull out and use. I have some tulle here, or some netting, and I'm just going to lay that on the top of this. Keeps everything in place, and I'll be just stitching right through this netting. And so the netting is going to be a permanent part of this bag. Just adds another layer and some texture to it. It clouds the color a little, but not much. It's really pretty see-through. And then just adding some pins to keep it all together. I'll be taking this to my sewing machine. I'm going to be doing some free motion stitching on this, and I'm going to meander stitch all around it. And I don't show this at the sewing machine, but you'll see the end result here. And then working on the back. And adding my phrase. And this one, like I said, it does say practice twirling in circles. And then I knew I had some circles in with some of my odds and ends, and so I'm adding those to this as well. These already had like a heat and bond light to the back of them, so I'm removing that paper so that this can just be ironed on. And again, adding the netting and the tulle to the top of this. This netting is not quite wide enough for the entire width of this bag, and so I am doing 2 different layers and just overlapping one of the layers. And then adding some pins to keep everything in place. Now I do have a batting cut the same dimension as the front and the back, and I'm using this multicolored thread, and that is what I'm going to be using for my free motion stitching. And you can see what that free motion stitching looks like. I just circled on those circles and I added some meander stitching. Now I also have some fabric cut for my lining, and this is cut the same dimension, a little bit bigger. I'm going to be trimming it down here, and you'll recognize this barcode fabric. I used that on my last project on some patchwork belts that I created. Really like adding black and white to my projects, and this barcode fabric was just whimsical. I picked it up in the clearance section. And trimming all my pieces. I really like the size that this clutch turned out to. It's just a really good size. Now notice I added a little sunburst there, and I did that right on top of the tulle. This one I've also meander stitched on. I just thought it needed something little there, and it's talking about a sky, so I thought the sun was appropriate. Now on to adding the zipper. I'm using a black zipper, and it's a couple inches longer than my bag. So you'll see it extend off there. It's just easier to work with a longer zipper. Now my zipper is face down on the front side of my bag, and I'm pinning my lining. I'm just clipping my lining using Wonder Clips so that my zipper is sandwiched in between. And so my lining is the pretty side down, or the right side down. My zipper is face down, and I'm just clipping this into place. I'll be taking this to my sewing machine now and just using my 1/4 inch. I don't even use my zipper foot. I use my 1/4 inch foot and using a 1/4 inch seam allowance on that. Next is a top stitching. I do like to make sure that that lining is pulled back, and I'm going to give it a little press here. Just making sure that that lining is pulled away from the zipper and just really nice and flat. And then I will be top stitching this right across, just using just a scant top stitching. Now it's onto the other side of my bag, and I'm flipping that so that it's face down onto the zipper, making sure everything is even on that left side there, and then adding some clips. Opening up that zipper because it's just easier to work with it that way. And then the next, I'm also needing to include my lining. So again, my zipper is sandwiched in between my front of my bag and my lining. And my lining is all the right sides together. I'm just getting that all lined up there so the edges meet. And we'll be top stitch or just sewing that. And I do, like I mentioned, I just have my 1/4 inch foot on. Going forward and backwards there at the start, and just following that all the way down, taking that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Making sure everything meets on the right hand side there, and going all the way through all my layers. Once again, back to my pressing mat, and we'll be pulling that lining away from the zipper, ironing that flat, and making sure everything is just nice and neat before I start to top stitch. And the top stitching again is the next step. I'm just going to edge stitch that all the way down. Now on to the strap. I'm going to be doing a detachable wrist strap for this. It's cut 3 inches by 18 inches, and then just pressing it to meet in the middle, and then once again folded down. This is going to form a 3/4 of an inch strap. I top stitched both sides, cut off a 2 inch little tab there, and just ran my D-ring into that. Then my D-ring is placed on the zipper pull side of the front, about 1.5 inches down, and I will be just top stitching that into place. Now it's on to finishing that bag. You want to make sure your zipper pull is not completely off of the bag at this point. Get everything all lined up so that the lining is together and the bags are together. I'm going to mark on my lining fabric about a 3 or 4 inch opening. That's going to be the opening that we turn our bag through. Those teeth on that zipper need to be facing the lining. So I just fold that down so the teeth are facing the lining. Doing some pinning, getting everything even. And again, those teeth on the open end of the zipper are facing the lining. And then I'll start at my opening, go back and forth all the way around, carefully going over my zipper and then finishing it off. I'm taking about a 1/2 inch seam allowance, trimming everything, clipped off the rest of that zipper. I want to put a boxed corner in my zipper, so it's a boxed bottom. So I'm just folding that, getting those seams to match, and then taking a ruler and drawing across this. And I do have about 1.25 inches from the bottom of it, so it's going to be about a 2.5 inch box here. And doing this one the same way. I'm opening up those seam allowance and forming that triangle right in the corner there. And then taking my ruler again and then drawing that into place. And then I will be taking this to my sewing machine and stitching right on my mark. Once it's stitched, I'm going to be doing the same thing to my lining fabric, opening up those seam allowance and forming that triangle in the corners. And stitching across. My corners now are boxed in both the outer fabric and the lining fabric, and now I'm just turning everything through that zipper. Getting everything nice and neat. I have to close the lining fabric, and so I'm going to be turning under that 1/2 inch seam allowance and pressing that into place. And then taking that to my sewing machine and closing that up. Pushing everything back in now, getting those corners nice and even. Really love how this turned out. I love the bottom of it. And it's on to finishing the strap. I have a little swivel hook here. It's just going through. And then I'll fold that end down, bring this end up and slip it underneath that folded end. And then we'll just top stitch this. Make a little box shape on that. And then this just clips in. I want to add a little dangle to the zipper. And I showed how I made these button dangles. Again, I'll link that video up above for you. But I made the out of little the buttons with shanks, these little button dangles. It just turned out so fun, and I just love them on zipper pulls. So I'm going to add one of those. And this completes the project. I did add some photos in the back and the end here. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much, everyone who's joined me. Bye for now.